Hi, my name is Quinn Baddock, here with Farmore, and today we're going to be taking a look into the methods that we used to pull off a spec ad that we recently shot for Topo Chico. So initially, the way that we started off was we were going to have a camera overhead. That was always going to be the case. We had a little blue kiddie pool, and we had a piece of plexiglass. Underneath that, we had the sand, which we had designed in a particular pattern so that it would look good. And then on top of that, we put the actual can. So now we have the can set up, we have the sand set up. So when we actually pulled it off, it ended up looking pretty good. Scene 4 was, at least from a production standpoint, we spent most of our time on Scene 4, and that was because of cowsticks. It's actually something that we learned, so we spent a lot of time experimenting with that. Eventually, mirrors ended up being the solution. So we had a very simple setup. We had the blue kiddie pool, and we had a mirror at the bottom of the kiddie pool. We poured water inside of the kiddie pool, and then we let it settle, and we ended up bouncing a 300D with a 2x Fresnel, just going roughly at 45 degrees right onto that mirror and the water above the mirror. During the production, we ended up having the agave plant on a platform with sand just on 2 apple boxes so that we would still get those cowsticks where we needed them to be in the shot. So it's a balance of 3-4 different things that we had to get right. We used a can of compressed air to excite the water, and sometimes we did it by hand depending on the effect we were going for. What we could do, because the shot was static, is take multiple takes of it and blend them together for, something that you wouldn't be able to do with the water. The added benefit is that we were able to move the mirror up and down, side to side, so that the different framing that we needed, we might want some vertical movement as opposed to horizontal movement. Scene 5 was is a bit of an interesting one just because it seems straightforward, but then you actually have to pull it off, and it's not so straightforward. The first thing we had to do is find out camera position, and then also what surface to use so that we could see both sides. We're shooting up into the glass, so that was, eliminating any reflections that we would have if we're shooting directly up. And around the bottle, we had bits of glycerin, and that would just ensure that it wouldn't move too much. We could reposition things and it wouldn't damage anything. We had a pretty simple lighting setup where we had one very large pen light. It was a Gemini. We had that in one color, and we wanted the background to be, to be 2 different colors. So we had a Gemini, we had an MC, something like that, and then we had just a white background. From there, we were able to pull off that shot. Scene 6, you watch it first, and then it kind of catches you off guard, and that's what it's supposed to do. When we were designing the shot, the main challenge we had to overcome was having a shadow pour over something that's actually getting wet. And it seems simple in principle. You have to worry about having that water in the shot. So how do you do that? What you have to do is you shoot a clean plate, which is what we did, and then we shot a plate of just the water pouring, and it was more so the shadows. So we had to also eventually mask out any hands or any of the actual water that's pouring out. We isolated just the limes and the limes getting wet, and we had to line them up because the shadow pouring wasn't perfect. So we did 3, 4, 5 separate takes of that, so it's a little less turbulent. It's easier to mask out. We had a tube light just right up top over the set so that we could get the background lit and nice and even. And then we had a spotlight coming directly onto ice lime so that they had some texture, because ice is really nice on camera, but you have to light it right. And then for the water and the shadow, we had to have a crisp shadow, so we used a spotlight mount far away so that when that comes there, we also had the bottle really close to the background. It's another one of those things where your distance ratios matter. So we had the bottle really close to the background and that light far away so that we get that crisp shadow there. So for scene 7 was kind of an interesting one. We had the top-down rig, and essentially what we did is we just got everybody on set to just drop limes at the same time, and that eventually evolved into where we had kind of a product shot where we dropped the can in the center. The biggest takeaway from this project would be doing things practically. A lot of things nowadays are done either in an aided way or completely digitally, and it's not the same. Doing it practically it gets you thinking. It gets you thinking about the physics of things, about how things will feel. You don't have to, let's say, grab a bitmap image and, put a texture over that so that it looks real. It's all real. You can do it practically. And of course, that does involve a fair bit of math and trial and error. That's part of the fun. It's very engaging to try and figure these things out. It's kind of like you're going back to high school physics, except actually doing it on a set with people and, the right gear. And if you can figure all that out, the product's gonna be awesome, which I think it was in this case. Hope you guys got something valuable out of this. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content coming soon.